Today we're going to spend more time on parabolas. So if I had the parabola y equals x squared minus 6x plus 3, and I wanted to graph it, and you're not allowed to graph using your calculators, you need to graph using vertex form. And for some reason, Cynthia doesn't call it vertex form, she calls it standard form. But everything I've ever seen in all my years of mathematics calls this equation on the board standard form. So we're not going to follow Cynthia's ideas because she's wrong. So I need to turn this into a perfect square. And to do that, I need to just move this plus 3 to the other side. Or not to the other side, just move it out of the way. X squared minus 6x, we leave a space, plus 3. What is the perfect square factor? It would be x minus 3. And if my factor is x minus 3, what's the constant of the perfect square trinomial? Plus 9. But I can't just randomly add 9 to the equation. That makes it unbalanced. I need to rebalance everything by subtracting 9 on that far right side. So now this turns into that, which is what I wanted. And then that plus 3 becomes a negative 6. How do I graph this? It's a regular parabola with a positive opening. We go right 3 and down 6, and that's my parabola. Okay, it does get a little bit harder if the middle number is odd. Say plus 4. So I'm going to do x squared plus 7x, leave a space, plus 4. Hey, there you are. People watching this video from other years are going to wonder who just showed up. The answer, Santa Claus. So this is going to be x plus half of 7, and I highly recommend that you just leave it in fraction form because it's easier to square. So plus 7 over 2 squared. So this is going to be 49 over 4. 7 times 7 divided by 2 times 2. And if I add 49 over 4 to part of the equation, I have to subtract it to balance everything out. And I'm just going to type in 4 minus 49 fourths. Oh, that didn't work. 4 minus 49 fourths. I get negative 8.25. So 7 halves is 3.5. So I'm going to go left 3.5, which is right there, and then down 8.25. It looks like this. Okay. All right, what if we had y equals negative 3x squared, oh, let's say plus 24x, and then, geez, I don't know, minus 18. What do we have to do in this case? I need to factor out a negative 3 from there. So I get negative 3 times x squared minus 8x, leave a space, and then the minus 18 just kind of hangs out on its own. Okay, you don't want to take that negative 3 out of the 18 because that puts the constant inside the parentheses, which is not what we want. So negative 3 times x minus 4 squared, and then this is plus 16. So what do I do to the negative 18? What do I do to balance out that plus 16? Well, it's not really a 16. It's negative 3 times 16, which is negative 48. So by placing a plus 16 underneath this negative 3, I've essentially subtracted 48 from the equation. To get that back, I need to add 48, and then I get plus 30. Now, whereas that graph, it's right 4, upside down, 3 times as tall, and then plus 30, which is kind of hard for me to graph. Okay, does everybody understand that? All right, let's do another one. What's that? Yeah, so that's a good question. What if I get y equals negative x squared, factor out negative 1? Yeah, you always need to factor out. If it's not positive 1, factor out something to make it positive 1. Okay, this one's a little bit more difficult. Oh boy, I don't even know what to put here. See if that works. Okay, pay attention to this because this is a little bit harder. I'm going to pull out a 1/4. How do you take a 1/4 out of negative 3? You times it by 4. Right. So if I take a 1/4 out of this, I'm asking how many 1/4ths are there in 3? Well, 1 has 4/4, 2 would have 8/4, so 3 would have 12/4. So it's minus 12x, and then my space. And if you want to think about it a different way, 1/4 times what is negative 3? The answer would be 12, negative 12. So 1/4 times x minus 6. This turns into 36, but it's not really 36. What is it? It's 1/4 of 36, which is 9. So I need to subtract 9, and I get minus 5. So this particular graph is right 6. It's 1/4 as tall, so it kind of looks like that. And then it's down 5. Okay. So that will take you all the way from 35 to 43. 45 to 53 is really easy. How do you find the vertex? Well, you do this same trick. You convert it to vertex form. Where is the vertex of this equation? So this tells me to move right 6, and this tells me to go down 5, so the vertex would be 6 comma negative 5. So that's the only difference between the first section and the second section. Okay. The last section, find the quadratic equation that has the given vertex and goes through the given point. So let's do number 56 to start. So I have a point, or the vertex, 2 comma negative 3, and I know that it hits the point 0 comma 1. So my vertex is positive 2, negative 3 right there. And I know it hits the point 0 comma 1 right there. What can you tell me about this parabola? Which direction does it open? It has to open up. Why? This is the vertex. So the vertex is either the maximum or it's the minimum. And in this case, it has to be the minimum because there's a point higher than it. Okay, and there are a couple different ways you can do this. That's not a very good graph. But I know it hits right there. How would I figure out that equation? Well, there is something on our calculator that will find quadratic equations called quadratic regression, but you would need another point. In order to do quadratic regression, you need 3 points. So if I know 2, negative 3 is one of the points, and 0 comma 1 is one of the points, can I find a third point? Well, I know that this parabola is symmetric, right? And this is 2 units away from that line. So if I went 2 units over, that would be 4 comma 1. Okay, now don't do this because this isn't the way we're going to do it, but I want to show you this just in case you ever get stuck and you need an equation. If I go into my stat, go into edit, I am going to create 3 points and then ask the calculator to find the equation. So my first point, my x's are 0, 2, and 4. And my y values are 1, -3, and 1. Okay? And they have to match up. So the x's and y's have to go together. One of the points is 0, 1, one of them is 2, -3, and one of them is 4, 1. Do you remember where to find a regression? Stat calc, and then we want number 5, quadratic regression. And that's going to tell me the equation is 1x squared minus 4x plus 1. Okay, but the answers for this have to be in vertex form. So if you solved it this way, you would need to find that third point, plug it in, and then take this and convert it into vertex form. So that's not what we're going to do. I just wanted to really quickly review regression for you. We are going to use vertex form. So vertex form says y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Okay. The h and the k are the vertex. So I am going to plug the y value of my vertex in for h, and then the k value of my vertex, sorry, the y value, I said that backwards. My x value of the vertex into h and my y value of the vertex into k. All right, and that's not going to be enough. This equation has 5 variables, or yeah, 5 variables. Do I know any of the remaining 3? Well, I know my point is some x and some y, so I can plug that x in there, and I can plug the y in there, and that will isolate the a. So 1 is equal to a times 0 minus 2 squared minus 3. Well, 0 minus 2 is -2. -2 squared is 4. So I get 1 equals 4a minus 3. I add 3 and I get 4. Divided by 4 and I get a equals 1. How does that help? I now know what the shape of the parabola is. I now know it opens up, and I now know that it's just a regular parabola, the basic shape. It's not tall or short. Okay? Well, I still know my vertex. So the answer is going to be y equals 1 times x minus 2 squared minus 3. Right 2, down 3, regular opening. Does that make sense? Okay, I plug my vertex and my point into the equation to figure out what a is. Once I know a, then I can write the equation. Let's do another one. Let's do, my vertex is 1 comma 3, and my point is -2, 0. The formula, a times x minus h squared plus k. So this is hk, wow, I did that backwards. H, k, x, and y. 0 is equal to a times -2 minus 1 squared plus 3. Does everybody follow that? -2 minus 1 is -3. -3 squared is 9. 0 is equal to 9a plus 3. Subtract the 3 and divide by 9. A is -1/3. What does that tell me about the parabola? Upside down? And it's really wide. Not wide, sorry. Short. It's really short. So the equation is y equals negative 1/3. That's my a value. And then I just re-enter the numbers for the vertex. X minus 1 squared plus 3. Can we handle that? All right, get to work.